Good morning, guys. Happy April Fool's Day. It's Wednesday, April 1st, 8:12 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, and I'm just going to hop on a quick call with Denis Arsenault of Organigram, the CEO of the MMPR in Canada. Stand by, we're going to dial him right now, just have a quick conversation, which he's agreed to do, and then I'll talk about the stock a little bit as well. Dennis, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, you see a little video icon on the bottom?
Yes, I do.
Beautiful. There you are. Thank you, sir. It's great to see you today. Hope things are rocking and rolling out there. We are recording this, as I mentioned, so I appreciate you coming out and taking the time today. And I've got a few questions here for you, and really look forward to kind of getting some updates and some insight from the top man at Organigram. So again, thank you very much, and you know, we'll get right into it, I guess, and I guess sort of to start, maybe help our viewers. Most of them have already invested in Organigram or are in it or are aware of it, but you want to maybe talk about yourself a little bit, or what sort of got you into the company, anything prior. But,
yeah, you know, from my perspective, I was on the sidelines for the last 5 years or so. I've been in business all my life. I started 10 businesses in 13 years, so I've been at it for a while. The last 5 years, I was retired, and just couldn't pass up the opportunity to get involved in the new medical marijuana industry. And you know, obviously, recreational marijuana will follow in due course. So, from a business perspective, couldn't pass up the opportunity. Had a lot of the shareholders of Organigram that approached me. My background being in business and construction made that I guess they presumed I was a good fit. So it's been a great year. It's been 13 months, Braden. So it's been a great run.
Awesome. Well, as a shareholder, I can tell you it's been great seeing the progress and the growth. And I wanted to just, one thing I've said many times, but quickly remind viewers that, you know, we're in the infancy here. I mean, we're only, what are we, a little over a year in. So it's, I think, important for investors to realize just the nature of this business and the challenges that are there, and how things are only going to get better, I believe, from here. But yeah, you guys have made amazing strides corporately. So just ask you real quick before we kick off with the questions here. Are you personally surprised kind of just how far along Canada's come? I mean, the headlines have been unreal. Like, I didn't think the mainstream press, for example, would be covering the MMPR as much as it has. Most of it very positive. Has it surprised you that it's kind of come to the forefront so much?
I'm a lot like you, Braden. I really can't believe what has been accomplished in a year in terms of the industry and the visibility of the industry. And I think it's really driven a lot by the patients, and the media is covering that. So it's not driven by the media. It's driven by a desire for patients with various ailments, wide range of ailments, looking to get access to this medicine, and that has brought on the media attention. And with that media attention, with an election coming up, also, it's you know, the industry's growing tremendously.
Yeah, well, it's been fantastic, and as I keep saying, we're really in the infancy here. I think the last year was kind of the warm up, if you will, and things are about to really ramp up, I think. So, so Organigram today, can you give us kind of maybe a little bit of a corporate update, sort of today, and then maybe after that, sort of let's call it a 5-year plan, or kind of your 2-3 year out plan for the company?
Well, I think operationally, what people need to remember to focus on is we're producing a medicine. We could be producing any other item. So we need to build our team and our production facility and make sure that we got the right foundation. You know, it really doesn't matter what product we produce. It comes down to having the right employees, the right team, right customer service, the right product, and looking after all of the aspects of the business. So when we look at what's been going on in the last year, like you said, the industry is very much in its infancy. But Organigram, like our other competitors, also, you know, we're building their business. Mm-hmm. So at this stage of the game, it's been a couple months. All of the keys and the important pieces of the puzzle have been together in terms of my people, because that, at the end of it, is what a business is. The production facility has now been, you know, expanded to, we can easily produce about 1,000 kgs now. And, you know, when you mentioned, you know, next 2 to 3 years, you know, Organigram's kind of got two heads right now. You've got an operational entity that's servicing customers and onboarding customers on a daily basis, but it's also a construction site for the next 1 or 2 years where we're expanding production capacity. And, you know, by the mid to late of 2015, we'll have a 3,000 kg capacity. So it's really got two heads right now. We're wearing two hats. And fortunately, the foundation, which is our people and our products, are well on our way of servicing the clientele.
Beautiful. And I hear that myself just through the grapevine, that it's a very tight-knit group there. The staff are all very much sort of a family, which I personally love from a corporate perspective. But on that patient side, anything interesting that you've noticed on the patient front? Any trends or anything that's been surprising as far as who's sort of come forth or who's sort of the target market, if you will, from a patient perspective?
Well, in a lot of instances, we can identify, a patient in terms of a certain sector, a certain segment. What we're discovering with Organigram, and I'm sure it's the same for our whole industry, is we have patients coming at us with a wide variety of ailments.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously PTSD is the big one. It's also big in the United States in terms of a problem we have with our veterans and first responders. And it's not just our veterans. It could be anything from ambulance drivers to firefighters to policemen. So that is an important segment. I think one of the reasons it's important also is that in Canada it's covered by our health care, and so therefore their prescriptions are covered. But you have everything from arthritis to sleep disorder to ALS, MS. So I think to answer your question, what's very, very shocking and surprising is the wide range of people that are looking to medical marijuana as a solution to their symptoms.
Fantastic. That's sort of the same trends I'm seeing. That's fantastic. So on that note too, on the insurance side, I'm sure you saw a couple weeks ago this young Jonathan Zaid, I think it is, Sun Life covered his prescription. So a few of us have been calling for that and waiting and hoping, and there's a few obstacles I think for them to get on widespread adoption, but huge milestone in Canada. Any comments there?
Well, there's no doubt that what's happening again. It's being patient driven. Whether it be the employees that are working at a company that want it covered, whether it be their union that's trying to get the coverage for their members through the company's health benefit plan, this is ongoing all across the country, will continue to grow. I think that the important message to all this is that, for example, once insurance companies start covering medical marijuana, it's not an added cost to the insurance company, which is passed on to the employer necessarily, because it's avoiding and eliminating pharmaceutical drugs, which are not free. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important for the messaging to say, yes, there are people that are trying to get this product covered through the insurance companies, and the reason is they want, another tool in the toolbox to alleviate their symptoms. But also, it's not an added cost for employers or insurance companies because some of these pharmaceutical drugs are pretty expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. A good note there as well, because you're in Moncton, correct? And I'm, of course, the opposite end of the country here in Vancouver. Another, what I thought was very groundbreaking was the news of the vets. The Canadian vets last year received $4.3 million of government-subsidized cannabis, which I can't remember the percentage increase year over year. It was about 600 and change the prior year. So phenomenal increase there. Obviously, that trend I don't think is going anywhere. It's very clear. I've got a lot of friends and family that served in the military, even myself, and I know that the east coast of Canada is very patriotic. There's a lot of vets out there. So I know you guys are in talks with them. Does that excite you? The hearing numbers like that, the 4.3 million spent?
Well, to be honest with you, I think what's more exciting is the fact that some of our veterans are finally getting, some medication that's helping them get off numerous pharmaceutical drugs they're on. I mean, I realize that I wear two hats. I wear it as a citizen that's proud to support our veterans that have helped our country be what it is, and I wear the second hat as the CEO of Organigram, that's in the business of selling medical marijuana. So I think there's excitement there on both sides, but the more important one is just to focus. Let's not focus on the marijuana for veterans. Let's focus on the reality that there seems to be an alternative now to the pharmaceutical drugs for these people, much deserving people, to get help. Absolutely. And yes, you're right, disproportionately wise, there's a lot of veterans that come from Atlantic Canada. We're obviously establishing our relationships with them and trying to help in any way we can. But the more important thing is the fact that the government of Canada has recognized it as an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs, and our veterans are starting to see very quickly that they can get off the pharmaceutical drugs with getting on medical marijuana. So that's not short of exciting development, and appreciative, obviously, of the federal government being able to cover that cost. One thing I'd like to add, though, Braden, is that it's unfortunate in that article that came out with $4.3 million worth of medical marijuana being covered by the government. It was silent on the fact that maybe that $4.3 million of marijuana might have saved $6 million worth of prescription drugs.
Exactly. That I was just going to point out that a state side, which we have a lot more data there. The average vet, I think, is on six prescriptions, spending X amount of dollars a month. And suicide rates, unfortunately, maybe related to that, as high as every 4 hours. So it's an epidemic, and PTSD among these young soldiers coming home it's a real issue. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They did touch on that, and they did not talk about the savings. People could look at that and go, "Geez, we paid for that." Well, no, it could be 50% of what we would have paid in traditional pharma type medications. So
I'm certain, Braden, that the veterans groups and associations across Canada are going to put forth some cost analysis on what is being saved with the pharmaceutical drugs, and more importantly, because it really should not be a cost equation, the quality of life that our veterans are now being able to encounter with getting off pharmaceutical drugs, and then you'll have a more balanced debate on as to whether it's a $4.3 million additional expenditure, or whether it was actually cost savings there, and more importantly, quality of life improvement.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree more. Let's shift gears here a little bit to MMPR a little bit. It's coming along very nicely. The sort of adoption rates on the patient side are looking very good. MMAR over a period, I think, of 12 years got the neighborhood of 37,000. We've got well over 10,000 now in the MMPR, under 2 years in. So it's looking very, very positive. Any comments there, or again, anything that's been notable or that surprised you in the your first little while as part of the MMPR program?
We were meeting with some people from Health Canada last week in Toronto at our annual association meeting, and the numbers are more like about 18,000 now. Fantastic. Additional in the MMPR program. So, yes, the growth exceeds, I think, what our industry anticipated, and even what the government anticipated. And I think what's surprising most about the industry is still, I guess, I don't want to say the pushback, but the medical community is still really struggling with being the gatekeepers to the program. Mm-hmm. And you seem to have at times a little bit of a disconnect at the management level of the medical community with the frontline doctors. The frontline doctors are looking for an alternative to some of the opiates and some of the drugs that are out there by pharmaceutical industry. And, whereas, the management of the medical association are saying, we need a lot more research, we need a lot more studies. And, some of these research and studies could literally take 10, 12 years. Yeah. So there seems to be a little bit of disconnect there. So that's the one thing that, in the MMPR program that's a little surprising is that, yes, there's been tremendous growth that far exceeds, I think, what anybody, including the government, had anticipated, with another 15,000, 18,000 people. But you really still have this battle or discussions going on at the medical level. And hopefully in the next year or so, that can balance out where, the doctors that are on the front line having to prescribe, whether it be an opiate or medical marijuana, are developing a little more comfort being able to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on the patient front, anything that sets you guys apart from the pack? Anything that any initiatives or anything from a company perspective that you guys are doing that's proactive on that patient side? Because I myself, following the Allard case, of course, closely and listening to what they have to say and trying to stay in tune to the debate, so to speak, and talking to a lot of the physicians and policymakers. Anything you guys are doing differently on the acquisition side of good patients, of people in need?
Well, we obviously ask the questions, when in our call center and the incoming calls. It's not the first question we ask them, but as we're signing them up as a patient, why did they come to Organigram? What is it that we're doing that perhaps is attracting to them? What if you monitor our competitors' websites? Most, pretty much all of them, no longer have a waiting list. They're onboarding customers. We are still being bombarded with a lot of customers that are trying to come in. We still have a waiting list, and we're onboarding them as soon as we can, and should be able to work through that in the next month or so. I can only speculate, Braden. I mean, you've got the organic product that's important. What's happening is a lot of clinics opening across Canada to increase the access to Canadians to medical marijuana. And these clinics, are looking to have an organic product in the mix of products being offered to these new patients. So I can speculate that the organic is important. I can also speculate, and this one with pretty much certainty, Maritimers like to buy from Maritimers.
Absolutely.
We're the only licensed producer east of Ottawa. So there's no denying that. Maritimers have always supported their own. We're one of the most economically depressed areas of Canada, if not the most economically depressed area of Canada. So at the end of the day, we get a lot of traction with our marketplace down here. And, the way with the MMPR set up, we ship our product right across Canada via Canada Post. So we're not disadvantaged by being way out here in the Atlantic Coast. And but we are certainly benefiting from the advantage of Maritimers wanting to support Maritimers. And like I said, the organic product, and I think also our ability to service the Francophone market. 24% of our population is Francophone, and we're well positioned to look after that. So, when I look at those factors, our call center picks that up from the customers that are calling in. It's some of the things that's gaining us traction, and it'll bode well for the future.
Absolutely. No, that was two things that I was extremely bullish and still am, that Maritimers want to do business locally and probably always will. And then the Francophone aspect, I think, is one that was completely overlooked in the beginning. Now a couple of them are on board, of course, but even from a customer service perspective, I've heard some very, very positive things, and retention of these patients is so critical. And as you know, it's one of the more probably pickier, or they're a little more demanding, I guess, with their medicine. So you really need to give that extra care and attention, and it sounds like you guys are doing that. So awesome work. Most interest in the company so far? Who's after you guys the most? Is it prescribers? Is it patients? Is it bankers? Is it retail investors? I mean, what sort of right now is, I guess, who's showing the most interest in Organigram?
Well, I can assure you that our big five Canadian banks are not after us. I mean, at the end of the day, that
not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
They're not, doing business with all of us. At the end of the day, we're appreciative of the fact that we have a bank account.
Yeah.
But moving forward, that will obviously change. I agree with you. As the industry matures, all five of our big banks will be knocking at the door to try to do business with us. The interest in there's tremendous. Answer your question, it's coming from all directions. The amount of media interest and coverage, as you stated earlier, is quite surprising, and it's not from the fringes of the media. It's right from the mainstream. So I would have to say that's probably the most surprising. In that area. I mean, we just did a piece recently. It'll air at the end of April. Out of a very large news organization out of New York. So it's here we are in Moncton, New Brunswick, and having film and news crews coming up from New York. It's garnering a lot of interest.
And that's something we'll see in April, you said?
Yeah, at the end of April. Very large news organization. Very large, worldwide. So it's interesting to have them fly up to Moncton.
No kidding. That's fantastic.
They had. I laughed. I asked the producer to come up. I said, "I presume you had to look on the map to find us." And he goes, "Oh yeah." He says, "You definitely weren't on my radar."
A couple flight transfers and So tell us a little bit internally about the team, the staff you've got there at the site. Maybe a little bit about the culture. As I mentioned, I know it's a very tight knit group. I've dealt with Brett Allen from the beginning. He's been absolutely tremendous. I know probably 99% of your investors have spoken to Brett or yourself at one point. So as far as the internal, the ops people, do you want to just sort of shed some light on what that looks like internally?
Well, I mean, right from the get-go is a philosophy I put in place. I mean, every employee that's here has stock options, and we don't discriminate, right from the person that's on the floor to people that are in the office. I think when you talk about culture, that's very important. At the end of the day, it's real nice that the stock is starting to move and is going to do well. Our shareholders are going to do well. Our customers are getting good medicine and they're getting good customer service. But, if that employee that's working for you cannot see how it's also going to benefit their family unit, you just can't create the culture and the work ethic that I'm looking for. So we put that in place from day one, and it's starting to show great fruits in terms of not only just motivation, but problem solving and suggestions and engagement from all our people. So that's quite critical. The other part is, it is an interesting industry. I mean, some of our highest paid employees here are microbiologists, immunologists, then you go all the way to horticulturalists. You've got quite a range of skill sets that are required. My president that runs the company ran one of the largest breweries in Canada. And that's just a coincidence that it's a liquor versus marijuana. But he managed a company with 500-600 employees. So the skill sets that are required are quite interesting. And we certainly didn't all come out of the same school of education to be able to run a medical marijuana company.
Awesome. I love the idea of having everybody vested, everybody sort of in the canoe and working for the same goals. I think that options are a tremendous way to incentivize employees. So good on you. What's the rough staff count total? How many make up Organigram? How many people total?
We're at 28 today, and but we will be going to about 40 to 42 here in about another 5-6 weeks. We've got another tremendously large crop coming online, and thereafter, there's a sequence of large crops that are coming. We're finally hitting our stride. We put 3 large grow rooms in place in November. We have 4 more right now that are finished and just awaiting final inspection. So, we're finally ramping up to where we have a lot of product coming in, and that's what our investors are looking for. That's what our customers are looking for. And, from the staff's perspective, we're very excited that we finally arrived where we're going to be supplying a lot of product.
Awesome. Just switch gears a little bit to just wanted to bring up that Allard case that took place here in Vancouver a few weeks back. I don't know if you paid much attention to it. There was some good, some bad, some ugly, and it's going to probably go on for some time. I don't think we'll expect any hearing until probably September, and could go on for years. And I've got some strong opinions there that, I'll maybe keep to myself because I learned a lot through that process, actually. It was very valuable. I sat through about 4 or 5 days of it, hearing a bunch of different witness testimonies. So anything you care to comment, any, not speculation, but do you see this? Obviously, it has a bit of an impact in a sense that some people, I think, don't understand it in terms of where the MMPR sit, or how, quite frankly, I don't think it really affects them negatively, just because the crew of people that want to continue growing, which I believe, maybe there's room on a small scale for that, absolutely, but they're not necessarily the target patients. So do you have any comments there in regarding that case, and maybe touch a little bit on if you see edibles or extracts at all coming down the pipe? And again, if we don't talk, if anything's touchy, don't get into it. But anything you care to comment there?
Well, I think just as my comment, I think needs to come as a Canadian citizen and not the CEO of Organigram. I mean, at the end of the day, I look at the current situation with. We need to remember that the marijuana is a medicine.
Yeah.
So I'm a strong supporter, like in Colorado or anywhere else, where an individual has the right to grow their own medicine. I have no problems with that. It goes back to the saying that we currently have, Braden, with liquor or wine. There's people that make their own beer at home. There's people that make their own wine at home, and that's been going on for generations, and it will continue to go on. I think that for a Canadian citizen, should have the right to grow their own medicine. I don't have any issues or reservations with that. And we've seen in other jurisdictions, for example, Colorado, the people have the right to grow their own, but some people just choose to go to the store and purchase it. What I struggle with is, some of these facilities that are supposedly growing medicine for themselves are larger than Organigram's production facility, which can grow product for 15,000 patients. So there's where for me as a Canadian citizen is a bit of the disconnect. Yes, 100% supportive of people being able to grow their own medicine, and I think that's the way it should be, because not everybody can afford to purchase the product elsewhere. Very important to make sure that people get their medicine. However, to have facilities the size of ours that are supposedly growing medicine for themselves, there's an issue there, and I suspect and hope that the courts will address that moving forward. On the subject of edibles and oils, yes, absolutely. I mean, especially on the subject of oils, it's a great way to deliver the medicine for certain segments of the population, obviously children, for example. So I look forward to having a favorable, response on that, or position in moving forward. And Organigram would look forward to being able to provide a quality product for our patients.
Awesome. No, I couldn't agree more, and I think that we should have that right. But for one person to have 200 plants and require it, that's not medicine. That's a retirement plan. But yeah, that's so. As far as I guess you kind of touched on we won't speculate on the outcome, but I couldn't agree more on the oil side as well for epilepsy. I mean, the proof is out there. So at this point, people finally have seen it. I think it's indisputable. Does Organigram have ambitions, should this become a part of the MMPR, to get into the extraction side of the business, whether it be tinctures, oils, etc.?
Absolutely. I've already visited a couple corners of the world where the equipment's manufactured, where testing is ongoing, relationships are being established. I mean, these are things that we see as important. In my role as CEO, I need to have a vision and see where the whole industry could potentially go, and make sure that I've positioned my shareholders to be able to benefit from that. So yeah, absolutely, these are things that are ongoing right now, and I will continue to do that research and those partnerships.
Awesome, good stuff. I know that my opinion, now's the time to start looking, put it that way, and start preparing potentially. So. On to the huge one, which is potentially federal legalization down the road at some point. We may in the next 3 years, but again, that's again a speculation. So onto the stock real quick, if we can, for people that don't know. Of course, OGI in Canada, OGRMF trading on the OTC. What is today? I think we're bid around 53 cents in Canada. Do you know the total issued and out? Like what sort of market cap are we trading around today? And any comments you might have as far as today's prices?
Well, I know that I think today currently around 55, 57. So there's been some movement in the stock, Braden, in the last week and a half. I think that the industry is starting. I like the way you said it earlier. It's a very new industry, and we're finally starting to see. And people have lost track of that a little bit. I mean. We're starting to see some earnings. We're starting to see some good sales from ourselves and our peers and stuff. So, you're going to start seeing earnings and start having multiples and businesses evaluated not on the new industry, but on actually earnings and EBITDA. So that's happening. For Organigram, it's the same thing. We've got a large production facility that's now online, being able to produce a lot of product. So the market cap of the company, I think, is in the vicinity of about $30 million. And, we're very at quite a discount to some of our peers. And I think, the market, we had a lot of restricted stock that came up that was available, before Christmas, and that applied maybe some pressure on the stock and stuff. And that's been washed through now. And, so we've got nice wind in our sails. And, we've seen some great movement in our stock in the last little while, and we see tremendous volume too, which is very encouraging. It means that the market is taking notice. So, at the end of the day, I think the industry has, gone through its typical new industry curve where I don't want to use the word bottomed, but, it's hit an area where investors are starting to see tremendous value, and, the volumes are going up, so people are starting to recognize that volume. And I know for Organigram, it's been a fun couple of weeks, and we look forward to continuing that trend.
Absolutely. No, and it's been nice to watch. It's enjoyed a nice week or so run, and that volume brings volume. So I think the investor community out there as a whole probably, as you said, you never want to try and call a bottom, but to say that it's probably cleaned out and looking good from here is probably a pretty safe thing to bet on, in my opinion. I also couldn't help but notice, I'll just mention, there's been very positive, some insider buying as well internally there came up on SETI and CEDAR. Any comments there? Some pretty big insider purchases, which is always very nice to see. For me personally, as an investor, that's among the top 3 things I like to see in a stock. So,
well, I think I'm sure yourself and a lot of your followers and investors are very savvy investors, and the markets are often very rational, and the markets are often very irrational. And at the end of the day, the insiders at the company, have tremendous confidence in what the game plan is, and have tremendous confidence in the people we've put together. Because let's face it, all businesses, it's about its people. Yeah. So yeah, there's been some large buyers from insiders, and I'm well aware that is probably going to continue. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's the vote of confidence. We're comfortable with where we're going, and are we potentially surprised at where the stock is at currently? But that's what you call buying opportunities, and as investors, as much as insiders, we get to form our opinion as to whether it's a great investment.
Awesome. Well, I, for one, as a shareholder that's been in from the beginning, I certainly added to my position after that, and I'm very glad that I did. It looks like a few others have added as well since then. So Any near term on the stock side, any catalysts you can think of that, just anything at all coming up that you can maybe touch on, that's already public information that you can just elaborate or share with the viewers?
Well, I think we made that announcement. We made a couple of announcements recently that were significant. Obviously, the adding of the 3 rooms, cultivation of the first large crop. The nature of medical marijuana growing is that we'll continue with cultivating those large crops on the cycle moving forward. There was a nice press release that was put out in the fall. It goes back quite a ways, and it was not noticed much. But our partnership that we've created with trauma healing centers, yes, which is clinics that are opening up across Canada. They've already opened up 3 clinics. And, that are looking after our veterans with PTSD, our first responders with PTSD. We've started onboarding a lot of those customers. And, you're talking customers 5-10 grams per day, all covered by our federal government. The announcement was back in November. It didn't get a lot of traction, but we're starting to see the results of that announcement and that partnership where we're doing work with them on research for various strains. So, these are announcements that were made previously that, did not get a lot of notice, but will be delivering some tremendous growth and earnings moving forward. So, I think people need to take light of a little bit of what some of these past announcements were and be able to take a look at how that's going to drive it forward. And you've said it yourself, in the last couple of weeks, the stock has moved tremendously to the upside. I think it's fair to say that, it has reached its bottom. And I wouldn't even think that it was an Organigram bottom. I think what we're seeing is that it was an industry, the whole industry. The hype has come out of the industry now, which has got no place in any industry. We don't want any hype. Yeah. We want it to be on solid earnings, solid management, solid customer service. And I think the smart investors are now seeing that, this is the trajectory moving forward for several of the companies within our industry and are starting to take notice. And, Organigram shareholders in the last couple of weeks have benefited. There's been a nice movement in its stock, and we anticipate that moving forward. And, there will be more announcements that will come forward in the very near future. We look forward to announcing those and continue to give confidence to the investor community that Organigram is a solid investment.
Fantastic. Any plans for any sort of quarterly calls in the future? I know you guys had an open house, pardon me. But I just want to mention too quick that did go very much unnoticed, and I think that's a testament again to how proactive the company is being in getting out there in front of the GP community, the medical community, for widespread adoption. As we need them to get educated, and these centers such as what you guys have done are precisely, I think, what's going to move the needle here. So, but anyway, back to you guys. Any sort of plans for that, for sort of an investor quarterly call or?
Absolutely, and in the past, as you can imagine, the focus on the business and has been internally. It's been on our customers, and that's in place now. We're going to start putting out these quarterly calls with investors where you can ask questions, analysts and stuff. That will start in the very near future. Very much needed. Very much a good idea to keep our shareholders informed. And, really the focus in the last 7-8 months has been on building the business. Now moving forward, that we've got, all the keys in place. There's no doubt, Braden, that will start happening very shortly. And obviously the notices will go out.
Awesome. So I want to learn more. Let's say I'm a patient or a want to be patient. How do I contact you guys? What's the next step for me as a Canadian looking for more information?
Well, our website obviously gives you all the call centers, phone numbers and stuff at Organigram.ca. It's a great place to start. There's a lot of information. Our doctor portal has just gone online last week. So there's a lot of things that have just fallen into place here recently. I like the way you said it. It's a new industry. Our competitors, our peers are all building our business. Tremendous growth that far exceeds what the government anticipated. And I think even what the investor community anticipated with the amount of patients that are coming into the system. We're building our businesses, and moving forward, it'll be built on a solid foundation of a low-cost production facility, motivated workforce, quality product. We look forward to that challenge. We look forward to that battle, and that's the stage that we're moving into, and it's exciting.
Awesome, love it. And I'll just mention Brett Allen again. He's one of the few investor relations professionals that I've got his cell phone, and I don't think he's ever not picked it up. So kudos to him for his diligence and for keeping me personally so good and informed through the process. And I was going to say, if I can drop his email, I think it's brett@organigram.ca if anybody wants to contact him directly. And then I don't know if you yourself want to provide yours, but yeah, I just want to thank you very much. Keep up the good work out there, and certainly keep in touch with us. And any final messages you may have to anyone.
No, I appreciate the invite to have a chat today. Coincidentally, I guess, your timing is really good. We've seen this great movement in the stock and the wind in the sails of the company. Some nice announcements that it'll be forthcoming. A couple nice announcements that have been made. So, the timing is great. It's been a great pleasure talking to you and sharing the Organigram story. Hopefully, we continue to show our investor and shareholders that we have a game plan. We'll execute on that game plan and look forward to where the industry takes us. It's exciting times to have a license and to be part of this industry.
Absolutely. All right, sir. Well, again, thank you, Denis Arsenault from Moncton, from Organigram.ca. Hope to speak to you very soon. Have an awesome day. Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye now.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to that. It went on about 35 minutes, so a little longer than anticipated, but I think it was a positive call. Just checked my email, and I was just sent a couple of internal photos. So here's a couple of the guys here at the site in what appears to be some sort of a vertical, I don't want to call it vertical technology, but a stacked growing system clearly, where they've got what looks like 3 levels of growing going on, and then just a close-up of one of their strains. Looks almost like a white widow type strain, but anyway, it's needless to say, it looks like they're chugging along. Had some real challenges in the last financing due to, I don't know if you guys remember, the Reuters article came out in regards to Canadian investment and Americans. Basically, they were considering it money laundering. So not a lot of people realize this. Denis can confirm if he wants to discuss it. But I know that their lead order, which was stateside, backed out the day of. So that, I think, had a real impact on the market, which now is kind of washed off, and hopefully they'll be moving forward. So to quickly summarize, OGI.V trades as OGI in the venture in Canada, currently trading a bid of 56, 57. If you want to see sort of the 3-month history in Canada, get a picture here going back to all the way back to January 2nd. 65 cents, got pulled down into the low 40s during that finance period. And as you can see, we've had a nice uptick in not only volume, but in share price as well. So I really hope to see that momentum continue. Stateside, OGRMF, trading on the OTC, just popped over that 50-day moving average of 41 cents. Trading today, only 5,000 shares, 42-cent bid. Be nice to see some volume come in here. Of course, that will have a major positive impact on the Canadian side with the amount of shares outstanding, which he had mentioned in the video. I think this is a quarter old, but there was only 53 million as of the last filing. So tight structure. Again, finally over that 50-day hurdle. And you can check out, if you want, their websites, Organigram.ca. Of course, as he mentioned, organic. You can go over their products available. And if interested in becoming a patient, he had mentioned, here it is right here. So I guess you would just click on the patient section, go ahead and contact them. On the investment side, Brett Allen, fantastic guy, brett@organigram.ca. Or you can always email me or leave a comment. I answer my emails immediately. It's braden.sutton@gmail.com. So hope you guys have an awesome day, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care.